X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out and stainless steel. No heart getting busy with it. But I got such a good heart that I make the motherfucker.
This doesn't get you hyped. I don't know what's gonna get you hyped.
Yeah, seriously.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Brady's PC, episode 167 for those who are counting. Yep. Opening it up with DMX. X is going to give it to you because we're going back. The world is going bananas over Deadpool and Wolverine. We did not finish our countdown, so we're taking it back to the beginning with the original Deadpool tonight. That's our movie of the week. We also got the latest episode of Kite, episode 4 to discuss. Also, if you follow our show, you know Batman has a very special place in Jason and I's hearts. We got ourselves a brand new animated series, Batman Kite Crusader, to talk about the whole season. Dropped last week, and we will be breaking it all down for tonight. Thanks for joining us, as always. Joining us on Facebook live stream, join us on YouTube, or wherever you found your audio on the podcast. We appreciate the support. Because unfortunately, X ain't going to give it to you anymore, because we're not going live over X anymore. So,
fuck Elon Musk.
Yes, exactly. But I'm Ed, and with me as always is Jason. Jason, what's up? What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Good to be here. Good to see everyone. I'm on summer mode, just hanging out with my son. But I did a little research. I did do a little research that I wasn't asked to do for the show that I wanted to share.
Nice.
I watched the episode of Hot Ones, and for anyone who's not familiar with it, Hot Ones is a talk show where the celebrity goes on and has to eat increasingly hotter hot wings to the point where it's like they're like delirious sometimes. And I noticed as I was doing my YouTube screwing around that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds did one together to promote the Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And anyone who likes that movie, anyone who likes Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, go watch that. Just go watch the Hot Ones, because Ryan Reynolds never turns it off. Like Ryan Reynolds he's in pain and he's still quipping. Hugh Jackman does get very quiet at one point. But it's so clear from that, like, they fucking love each other. They were broing out the whole time. And it was just, I don't know, like, again, like, I imagined like Wolverine and Deadpool going on like a Hot One show, like
that would be great. In character, that would be so awesome.
Fantastic. So I'm gonna say that's my recommend. I've been into that show, but that particular episode is great. That one and the Shaquille O'Neal episode, top notch.
I really enjoy that show. I probably should watch it more than I do, because it does pop up on my YouTube a lot. And I'm one who really enjoys buffalo wings as well. So I would like to go on this show. Like, wow. And I would take the challenge. I don't know how far I would get, but I would love to do something like that.
Man, I'm a pussy, man. I would be out on the first one.
You don't do spicy at all? I don't. Wow, I actually didn't know this. No, right?
No, I can't. I can't. Like, I might even have an allergy to it, because if I go too high, and too high for me is like nothing. It's like water to my wife, because my wife's Filipino, and she she has a very, very high tolerance for spice. But if I eat something too spicy, I start to hiccup. My eyes start to tear. Like, it's disgusting.
Oh, I'm not gonna act like there's no. You can physically tell at times. Like, I sweat, so I will start. There will be sweating, but it's not like I can't take it. And
right.
I'm still enjoying it, because I don't eat it.
Oh, okay.
I don't go to the level of heat to like torture myself. Like, if I'm not enjoying it, I will shut it down. But if we're talking about a challenge now, then I will push myself to go further because I've done that a couple of times now. And
Have you?
Yes, there was one time where I had the hottest wings that Buffalo Wild Wings offered. The hottest they had on the menu.
Oh my god!
And I will admit, that shit fucked me up. I will admit. I will admit it. It got to me like a half an hour later. Came out the other way. I was done. I was like, all right, I've seen my threshold at this point.
You order anything other than mild wings, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't handle this.
Oh wow, okay, all right, good to know.
No,
that is good to know.
I got no spice at all in me, but yeah, my wife, like it's funny because she'll taste things, and I always like there are certain things with her. I'll be like, do you think I can handle that? Do you think I'll like that? If I want to taste her food, and she'll think about it, and most of the time she's right, but there've been a couple times she's like, yeah, this is no spice at all. I'm like, no spice at all. Yeah, it's like so that's how different our tastes are.
Yeah, Angie's palate is weird because she eats those Takis, but can't handle other regular spice that I'm like, yeah, there's nothing to write home about here.
That's
weird. It's just it's very weird. I don't know. Like she also eats like the flaming hot Cheetos, and I actually got into them now. Like sometimes I will, if they're available at the theater, which Regal needs to do a better job at keeping it more available. But it seems like there's only a couple of theaters where they have cheese popcorn and they mix in like some flaming hot Cheetos if that's what you want. And I'll go for it. I always get popcorn, regardless, whatever it is. But it's weird. She doesn't do the cheesy popcorn, but I am all about it once it's available. But Atlas never has it. Midway never hasn't had it in forever. The one that we go to in Westbury for the IMAX, they have it usually on a regular basis, and Kaufman Astoria has it usually on a regular basis. Yeah,
Kaufman Astoria. Well, okay.
Yeah. So because sometimes I will go to those two as well. I mean, usually we frequent Midway, and then Atlas. If you are going or show's not going, I'll just walk around the corner, kind of like I did for Trap.
Oh yeah, because you're right there by Atlas.
Jason, I'm there in 3 minutes. Walking, not speed walking, just walking.
That's great. Yeah. I know fast. Exactly. Because I used to live around where you live. I grew up around there, so I know exactly. You're not even exaggerating.
No, it's not. I will time myself and do it. But all right. I guess we got some stuff. We will probably spill into Deadpool and Wolverine talk at some point because there's been a lot. And if you saw our last episode, we actually, for the first time, did a show about a movie we just saw that same night. So I know we've probably had a lot of stuff and to think about and time to think about it. So we'll see where it takes us. But we do want to kick it off with Kite Man, hell yeah, episode 4. A lot of explosions in this episode, my friend.
A lot of explosions. My boy Bane time traveling, I love it.
Yeah, and you texted me about this episode before, and I kept that in mind. So I have questions for you. Okay. So Doctor Who was time traveling through a toilet? Is that the part? Or?
No. Doctor Who time travels through a time machine that looks like a phone booth.
Okay. I thought maybe that one episode.
There's a specific episode that I got into. They got me into the show called Blink, and he's barely in it. And it starts off with this girl, Sally Sparrow, in this abandoned house, kind of like, I don't know, I forget what she's doing there. And she sees a tear of wallpaper. And as she rips it off, there's a note specifically to her, Sally, duck. And she ducks and almost gets hit with something. And so Bane does that. Bane sees the wall when he goes back in time and leaves them. And it becomes a running joke where they keep leaving messages for each other. Okay. But that's lifted directly from that one Doctor Who episode.
Okay, because I was wondering what aspects of this.
No.
Yeah. I was like, that would be wild if it was actually the toilet part.
He never time traveled through a toilet, as far as I know, but that show got weird in the past. Old Who, crazy stuff happened, and I've gotten maybe 5 seasons in. I'm 3 Doctors in, and I even tipped my pinky toe in the old Who stuff. So if I ever get to him time traveling in a toilet, I will. The first thing I'm going to do is call an emergency episode of GPT.
All right, so what else have we got here then? Because I thought we had some interesting stuff in this episode.
Yeah, no, this was a good episode. It all revolves around what's her name? The Kite Man's girlfriend, the skater.
Golden Glider.
Thank you, Golden Glider. Kite Man realizes he's got no pictures of her up in their apartment. They now live over Noonan's. He goes to see her brother, Captain Cold, which was kind of cool to see a version of him in this. Captain Cold just kind of goes, let's slip like, well, here's a picture. It was taken at Noonan's right before Golden Glider killed our parents. And Kite Man goes, what the fuck? Like, Golden Glider killed her parents at the bar we just bought that we now live above?
I was my like spidey senses over there went up for a minute because I'm like, oh, wait a second, this show are they going to use this as a gag, or are they really going to like go for some serious shit here? And it's not just like a gag. They kind of go for some like emotional stuff here.
No, they do, and especially so the B plot, which is tied directly into this, is Bane is helping them move. And I have to use the bathroom. She's like, "Can you just move this?" Okay, but it's bad for the bowel. Just the way he speaks is so weird.
It does make me think of the one I love to reference. Was it Ariel Knots or whatever did it, and they mock the Dark Knight Rises Bane, which this is obviously mocking that voice, and he's talking about fiber and he's talking about strawberries being packed with it and giving out food recommendations. Like, that's kind of what this one brought me back to.
Love it. And so he goes to the bathroom to take a shit, and time travels, because when you shit on this toilet, you go back in time, and if you pee in the toilet, you go forward in time. And so Bane finds himself back in the 80s at Noonan's on the day Golden Glider killed her parents. The way he puts it together is fucking hysterical. Like, this decor, very 80s, this music, but like, it's socially acceptable sexual harassment.
Yeah, the construction workers are talking to, or like saying shit to this woman who's walking by, and then there's the pool where they don't have sunscreen on. You're just asking for cancer.
That's it. I love it that he puts together, he's gone back in time, goes to Newton's, and like immediately sees Golden Glider's mom and falls in love with her because she works there. And doesn't know it's Golden Glider's mom until Golden Glider shows up, like as a kid, because she's there with her brother and the husband. You see them have a fight, the parents, and it's clear that they fight a lot. It's clear, and this is where it gets kind of dark, like emotionally. Like, it's clear that this is an abusive environment, that the father is abusive. It's clear to, like, they were trying to insinuate that the first time she used her powers, and it looks like even the last time she used it, like, she doesn't really have control over it, that it kind of like, it's like a trigger, like a PTSD thing. You lose it because you're triggered and you come to and you're like, holy fuck, I just killed these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, I mean, not that to that extreme, but you wake up and go, holy shit, what did I just do?
Yeah, because she said repeatedly, that she doesn't have any kind of control over him. That's why she's scared to use him around Kite Man, because she doesn't want to kill him. And that's where it's kind of like all somewhat comes full circle in here.
Right. And if you remember when she used them the last time, it was when Baby Doll told her that that Kite Man was dead, and she fucking lost it. And like murdered everyone in there, almost killing like some of her allies.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know where they go with that moving forward, because I mean they've really made it like a focal point in these last 2 episodes.
They did, and I'm sure they're building up to something with that, because the show's it's very well written. And so Bane winds up changing time and saving her mother, and but her father's dead. But who cares? He's an abusive prick. She goes back to the future to look and see all the changes, and nothing's changed. There's nothing of her mother there. And we go back to the past, and we see she wakes up. Bane says, "I saved you." She looks over and sees that her husband's dead and goes, I think that woman, meaning the adult Golden Glider from the future, was right when she said, I can do anything I want once I'm free of my husband. I'm going to leave. And she runs off and abandons the kids.
Yeah. I thought for a moment that, because I know Bane eventually comes back to like present day, I was like wondering, is Bane going to get stuck in the past and have to become like their stepfather or some shit like that?
That's what I thought. I thought Bane was going to be like, Uncle Bane or something, raising them.
Which would have been great.
That would have been. And that's pretty much the episode, right? Did I miss anything?
No, that was it. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward episode, but I was just really surprised that they weren't really dark there and went serious with such a raunchy comedic show that went there for it. And I was kudos to them for doing it, because I thought it was going to end up just being a gag and that was going to be it.
Yeah, me too. And now I'm kind of thinking like that mother clearly is going to play some important role in the future. And that's, that's pretty serious.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess we'll keep it rolling along then to Batman Caped Crusader. So I'm going to drop the spoiler ticker across the bottom here. This dropped on Amazon Prime Video last Thursday, and they dropped the entire season, which I was kind of surprised. I thought it was only going to be like the Amazon drop where they drop the first 3 episodes and then it's one a week after that. That's typically their move. But for whatever reason, they decided to just go ahead and drop the whole season at once. So we will be discussing the entire season kind of like wide open here and overall and bouncing around a little bit. So if you haven't seen it, come back and check us out another time. If you have, let's go. All right, so this series is produced by Bruce Timm, who was behind Batman the Animated Series. And I was actually really surprised to read over the weekend that he was originally offered a X-Men 97 style continuation of Batman the Animated Series initially as a concept and turned it down. He actually said he didn't want to, he thinks he's done with that. He didn't want to revisit it and wanted to go to, start fresh with a whole nother thing.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah, so do I. I guess overall thoughts on the show. You want to start off with it? You want me to go first?
No, you please start off.
Okay. I enjoyed it. I like this 1940s style Batman that we got here. There is a different spin on some of the lore, for sure, and little details. I mean, I guess even the casual Batman fan would probably see some of that. Some of the things that stuck out to me, I mean, obviously, there was liberties taken with, there's a gender swap Penguin in the first episode. There is some Selena Kyle stuff with Catwoman that is kind of turned around a little bit. There's an emphasis on Harvey Dent in the later episodes. But I think one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was the relationship between Batman and Alfred. Honestly, that seemed a bit different, and it was, I gotta admit, it was I didn't think it, like, as it kept going on and kept happening, it was a little bit jarring to me. And then I guess I saw where they were going. I guess they were building to the relationship that we know, like, normally is. But overall, I did enjoy it. There is definitely echoes of Batman the Animated Series in this. It's a spiritual successor, I would say, I guess, right? Because it's not connected. This is not a continuation. But it's very detective noir, and I dug it. There was maybe 1 or 2 episodes that I wasn't in love with, that I liked a lot less than the rest. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where they go with it. What did you think?
So overall, I think I dug the kind of detective, the noir thing. I'm glad. I was happy to see that they was kind of, you know, more detective, less action. And there's action, don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
no, there
he's
is.
more of a detective than he is like a brawler in this. And I like that because I always say, like, this is now like the 2000th iteration of Batman I've gotten in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You got to give me something new that still feels like Batman, and this overall does. Um, I think overall, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Uh, but it's one of those things where there are things that I absolutely loved, and there are things that I fucking hated.
Interesting. All right. I guess we need
Yeah.
to. All right. Is that? This is going to be interesting. All right. I guess we can.
I have the episode list up. If you
Okay.
want to
You
go
can.
episode by episode, I got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to like
So
go beat for beat, but I guess we can go episode by episode and just share
no,
highlights,
because
lowlights.
yeah, I think that might be the best because this isn't, and I like that. I like this, by the way. This is episodic. It's not really a story arc, except in the sense that the old Batman show was like, everyone knew each other and characters progressed, but every episode's a bottle episode. You know what I'm saying? And I like that they kept that. I'm glad that because we're now in the age of storytelling where everything. We're building a fucking 700 multiverse world on this first 10 episodes, and this is just Batman going. We're just telling a Batman story. We're telling a bunch of consecutive Batman stories that are, of course, are interconnected because this is Gotham and everyone knows each other, and that's that. And I really want to praise that. I thought that was awesome. All right, first episode. Hated it. I'm sorry. I did not like the gender swap Penguin. And me, anyone who listens to the show knows me. It's not like, oh, they're so woke, because I don't give a shit about that. Like, but my problem with that episode was, it took me a while to realize I was looking at the Penguin, right? Because I'm like, why are they singing and dancing and they have kids? Like, it didn't feel like the Penguin at all. Like, except that they looked like that. And if you're going to make the Penguin a woman, then do something original. And what we got was this old, tired Ma Barker crime boss mother, who like kills one of her kids in this episode. And it's like, I wasn't crazy about that. And again, the gender swap thing, because I just didn't see it just didn't have a point to me. And this was my entry episode. It just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. So I'm again, same thing. If you watch this show, then you can basically know me and Jason don't give a shit about this kind of stuff. Whatever. It's not about choosing whatever the hell political wing or whatever the hell you want to go with. It's not about that. I felt like I guess I didn't hate it. I just I did feel it to be a bit unnecessary because like you said, they didn't do anything with it. All right, so
Right.
She has kids. Oswalda Cobblepot has kids and is kind of like, I guess, mob mom instead, right? Like that's what's kind of revealed as the episode goes on. And I'm like, okay,
that's it.
So instead of like mob dad per se, we got mob mom, Oswalda versus Oswald's K, whatever. Plus, I was also a little confused on, like, she was parading as a singer or dancer, and people found the penguin nose and everything attractive, but not attractive. I wasn't really sure.
That was,
I was a little
I don't
confused.
know, and I didn't know what the point of any of it was. I was too.
Well, just the character.
Yeah, of any of it was.
Yeah, the character reactions
the
to
thing
her.
is, like,
I'm like,
right.
Wait, they find the penguin hot, and they're all lining up to
right.
What?
And the penguin is not known for A, being a parent, B, being a hot commodity in the sexual community, or C, being a performer. So that's why, like, all of these changes, like, it did not feel like a version of the Penguin. It doesn't even feel like a multiverse version of the Penguin to me. It just feels like a completely different character that they said, let's just make it a female Penguin.
Yeah, like this one, yeah, it was a little bit odd. I mean, they got Minnie Driver to voice Oswald Cobblepot.
Was that Minnie Driver? Oh,
yeah, that was Minnie Driver,
that.
who I was a bit surprised. That was a pretty big name to get to do this. So I mean, I was trying to go along with the ride for it because I knew it was coming. Like I was aware before
I didn't.
Yeah, I was aware, but I was kind of surprised we got this version of the Penguin in the first episode. But I will say, yeah, it didn't ruin it for me. I just felt like it was a gender swap for the sake of the gender swap. And
yeah,
I know that like the first thing that also came into mind was in the multiverse version in Enter the Spider-Verse when Olivia Octavius was introduced. I felt like that was just more well done.
But that's a thing that makes sense to me because Olivia Octavius has a lot of parallels to Otto Octavius, and so she is an Octavius multiverse being like that. That makes sense to me, right? Like I never said once like they don't make Doc Ock a woman. No, and because she is just a multi-dimensional Doc Ock. This doesn't feel like a multi-dimensional Penguin.
Yeah, and for me it didn't ruin it. I don't think I hated it. I just did feel like it was there for the sake of being there. And
I think I was so harsh because it's the first episode.
Oh, and I listen, I totally understand it. I'm fine with it. I was just also waiting because I mean there's a hand-to-hand combat with Batman in this episode at the end of it, and he doesn't hold back. He's like, all right, whatever. I got to stop you, so it is what it is.
He's not fucking around.
No.
He's a rich white man with privilege. He'll throw hands on a woman.
So, I guess also, what were your thoughts on this was our introduction to a new Batman?
Yeah, I liked this Batman. I do like this Batman. A little more calculating, a little more in the shadows. And I actually am with him. I my opinion stays the same throughout the whole season. I think this was a good introduction for Batman. For me, it was just like upended with this other stuff. But and the fact that if I remember correctly, Batman kind of fucks up and like doesn't get to what he needs to do in time. And this is supposed to be like Batman Year One, the cartoon, right? Like he's still at odds with the GPCD. So I know I love when Batman is fallible in the beginning. So I really dug that.
Yeah, this is definitely 1940s Batman Year One. Like you said, it is another Year One story, kind of like Batman Begins. Obviously, is Batman Year One. We don't go to that extent of the origin. I mean, he's already Batman when we meet him, but like the city, he's still kind of like a myth at this point. People don't think we're at that point where people don't think Batman is real. The public is trying to figure it out. Even the villains that we meet aren't totally believing that he exists. But yeah, I think it's interesting though because there's no computer. They stick to the 40s because we see Batman doing like outside of the Batmobile. That's probably the most technologically savvy thing he has.
He was going through microfiche or something, wasn't he? At some point?
Yes, he was. And that was interesting. All right, so then episode 2.
All right, episode 2. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just went.
Oh no, go ahead. You have the episode rundown, so just lead us through the episodes and then.
All right, so episode 2 is Clayface.
Yep.
Right, this is the Clayface episode, and now I'm going to say this: I fucking love this episode. This episode got me right back on board.
Okay.
I actually think the way they handle Clayface in this tops the way they handle Clayface in the animated series, because
Ooh.
he doesn't look monstrous.
Yeah.
He's definitely based on like a famous actor. He looks like Lon Chaney or someone like that. The fact he looks more like when you eventually do see him in his costume, he looks more like Darkman, if you remember that movie.
I do, of course. Liam Neeson.
Yeah, with Liam Neeson, exactly. And the way he sculpts his face, like I thought that was cool. Like, and the whole like, and again, leaning more into the investigation. There's a whole investigation of who killed. I'm blanking on his name. I know his name in the comic.
Is it Boris? Is it Boris Karloff?
No, I think it's based on Boris Karloff, though.
Yeah,
right? But it's but whatever it is. But like they're trying to solve his murder, and we meet Montoya, Agent Montoya, in this episode because she's the person who is following up. I love that we get Montoya. I've always been a big fan of that character. I love that she's kind of the person that Batman is courting to get into the GCPD. Like, instead of Gordon, I kind of like that it's kind of a different version of that she's the one good cop that he's watching to, get it on his ally. But anyway, I love this episode. I love that it's literally a murder mystery with a shapeshifter who does not look monstrous, because that other Clayface is cool looking for people who have never seen like a cartoon Clayface from the animated series, but it's monstrous looking. And I thought that this taking it down a bit was a very cool choice.
And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the villains in this, or just this world. Feels like it is taken a bit back, and I know we're going to get into. There is some supernatural stuff that goes on in this season.
Yeah,
but
we'll get into it.
I still, though, think for the most part it is extremely grounded for an animated show. Yeah. And this show is also clearly not for Fox Kids like Batman the Animated Series was.
This is for adults.
This is for adults. This is for kind of our wheelhouse, or people who watched Batman the Animated Series as children and now are kind of still like would get down with it as adults. Not that they curse or anything like that, but I just feel like the tone and the manner, I don't know, it felt way more. It felt more adult, like throughout it. And like you're right. I agree that this was one of the stronger episodes of the season. And yeah, I guess I can say this. I'm with you that this was the one that like really got me like fully on board with it, because I was like, okay, with the first episode, let me see where this goes, because I know we're going to meet more villains. But I also dug Clayface in this as well. Yeah,
no, I agreed. All right, so then the second is Kiss of the Catwoman. So what were your thoughts on this one? Because you had brought the Catwoman up before.
Yeah, I really like this episode. It is my favorite episode is still to come, but and I'm so curious. I'm dying to get to it. But this one, I did like this version of Catwoman. Like, she was the Catmobile. I thought was a little bit strange, but whatever. But I kind of dug the whole background that we get, and that Catwoman, this Selina Kyle, has kind of like her Alfred, but her Alfred shits on her every chance she gets. Like, yeah, because she was left nothing by her parents, but like dead instead. So that's why her motivation to steal, because she's stealing to pay the bills. And then you have Bruce Wayne, obviously the exact opposite there, and that's where they clash, because she's stealing. I'm going to stop the theft here. I dug the costume for the 40s aspect of it. And this was Christina Ricci who was Selina Kyle in this.
Was it?
Yes. She voiced Selina Kyle in this.
That's why I was in love with her.
And they've got good chemistry between this Batman and Catwoman. So I dug it. This was one of my favorite episodes of the season. Not my number one, but
yeah, I'm waiting for it. But I agree with everything you said. This was a great episode. I loved it. I really enjoyed that they made her the opposite side of the coin of Bruce Wayne, where he's rich. His parents left him and died and left him a ton of money and a very trustworthy guardian,
Yes.
and she was left with a ton of debt and someone who sells her out in the end. So I love that. I love the 40s outfit. I loved how just carefree and flirty she is all the time. Like, it felt like the 40s. I'm kind of glad that they resisted the urge to go, she's an anti-hero right away, or she's a vigilante, because we do that now, and that's fine. That's an iteration of the character. But I'm kind of glad that they went back to basics with her, and again, I'd like to see her eventually become more of an anti-hero, or in the Bat family if they go that way. But I think as an introduction, I loved it.
Yeah, this was a really good one here.
All right, next one up is the episode Night of the Hunters, which is where they realize that to catch the Batman, and this is going to bring up two characters we haven't discussed yet, but to catch the Batman, the best way to do it is to get a costumed criminal, because they realize that he shows up more for costumed criminals than any other criminals. So Montoya is the head of the task force, and of course the people working under her, Bullock, our good friend from the animated series, Bullock, is here with a stash, and Flask, who is a character that Bullock, it's funny to see them together because that's a character I've always thought Bullock was based on.
Yeah, I don't remember. Is there any other iterations where they're together?
Not to my knowledge, but I mean, I'm not up to date.
Yeah, because they really do focus on three detectives here: Flask, Bullock, and Renee Montoya.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Gordon is kind of not. He's there clearly, but he's not front and center out of the GCPD by any stretch of the imagination in this series. At least this season, I'll say.
Yeah, right. We don't know what's coming. But yeah, so this so then Flass and Bullock, they decide to pretty much break out Firebug, right? Is that his name?
Yes.
And Firebug is
Firefly, but they make sure that they use that name a few times, but this character is Firebug. So they're like,
okay.
All right, they're taking liberties with the Firefly character and going for Firebug. And I thought it was just a cool nod that the Flash, I believe it's Flash that keeps calling him Firefly, and he keeps correcting him.
Yeah, I agree. That was super cool. And so they do this whole thing where they like pretty much forge transfer papers, take him out, leave his suit and and a lighter, in the car, and pretend they have to go out and look for something and let him escape. And he just goes on a rampage, like an arsonist's rampage, that ends with Batman trying to stop him, but Batman doesn't stop him. Bullock does by fucking murdering him. Like, he's dead. He was shot and fell through a window, and they get a picture of Bullock, and that influences what goes on later. But again, I thought this was another great episode. I really enjoyed this one.
So I'm going to say that this is probably my third favorite episode of the season, because I really enjoyed the fact that, number one, when Firebug puts on his costume and the way he sees everything on fire, I thought was very fascinating.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's how he sees the world on fire. And then he's like essentially going to make that happen. And then also the murder of Firebug by Bullock, I thought was interesting because they literally they were basically tasked, Flask and Bullock are tasked with tracking down the Batman. And they decide to, you're right, like you mentioned, use him as basically bait to bring out Batman. But then they know that he knows obviously what they did and handed him his suit. And so the cops had to cover their asses and murder him because they know he's going to talk. That was also something that was getting me like, oh, this is the tone of the show that we're watching here. I'm into this. I'm into the more like adult serious tone.
Yeah, no, I am too, and that's actually a part of my problem with a couple of episodes coming up. But we'll get there when we get there. All right, the next episode, and I'll let you do this one because I do have a lot to say, so I don't want to overshadow you about this one. But it's the Harley episode. It's the episode where we not meet Harley and Quinzel because we did have we've met her day one, episode one. Bruce, there's we can't get into everything, but there's a B side, a B story where Bruce Wayne is sent to deal with anger management because someone says something about his mother and he fucking punches him.
Mm-hmm.
Which don't go talking about dead guys, a guy's dead mother. Come on,
talk about no one's mama. That's
yeah. Don't, just keep Martha's name out your fucking mouth. All right?
Keep Martha's name out your fucking mouth. Is right.
So we see her a lot, and actually in this episode, before this episode, she and Renee Montoya are like make a date to go out, and so it's like, so we've seen Harley and Quinzel, but this is the first we see of Harley. But I'm sorry, you please go through the episode. I'm talking over you again.
No, it's all good. Yeah, so like you mentioned, we've seen Harley. Harley and Quinzel, as she's referred to, she is the psychologist that is peppered throughout the first 4 episodes. And you're right, Bruce meets her, and then like she actually, I think it's in the beginning of the episode, she has a session with Bruce. Bruce is just kind of checking the boxes with this, like, all right, I know I was mandated to do this, let's go. But they have an interesting conversation where he pushes back and is like, this ain't gonna do anything. I'm here to fill my quota, sign my papers, get me the fuck out of here. And he even tells Alfred essentially the same when we see him in the car right after. Like, he's just rolling his eyes, and Alfred even says, like, did you feel like this did anything for you? And he's like, no, because he's already gone into like his Batman thing. That's where he feels his therapy is. Yeah. And obviously we're all like, okay, you two need to talk to somebody, dude. So we're kind of like, with Alfred here on this, but then slowly but surely it gets revealed that this Harley Quinn is dresses up as a jester and starts going ahead and using this same approach to basically brainwash all of Gotham's like rich white dudes, essentially, right? Like, that's kind of what we see, and to basically make them hand over their fortune and their money, and she has them collected in, I believe, is it the playpen, or she calls it? She has it in an underground room where they're behind glass. One of them's dressed as a baby, another one is dressed as a clown, which was kind of ironic. Obviously, not like it's not a spitting image of Joker, but it was there.
No, it's definitely an illusion.
It definitely reminded me more of that clown. Reminded me more of Crazy Joe Davola in Seinfeld with the episode.
Yes,
it's like the same outfit.
Yes,
and it is a fucked up thing. Like, it gets really dark in this episode. And yes, This is the one I was talking about. I'm going to be honest. This is my favorite episode of the season. And
wow, okay.
No, it was, because it was really crazy, and it is a very different take on Harley Quinn. Now, again, I was aware that they were going with a different Harley Quinn in this show, so I was just curious to know where it was going. And this Harley Quinn is Asian, and there's no connection to Joker, at least yet. And we've been aware that Harley Quinn, is bi in the real one, right? She goes, I'm sorry, the real one. In the regular universe, Poison Ivy, Joker, whatever. So I'm curious to see where they go with this later, because she doesn't die in this, but she has a friend who does, and the confrontation between her and Batman is really interesting, because she's not gonna be able to take him one-on-one, but she gasses him, and Renee Montoya gets involved in this thing too, and it's a pretty dark episode where she ends up kind of like leaving Gotham at the end of it. But I was on board with this kind of remix of the character.
Yeah, I was on board with most of it.
Okay.
I don't mind that she's Asian. I don't
No.
care. I actually think it's a good idea to not have her origin tied to the Joker, because we've always seen that, right? And I think even in the DCEU movies that we saw, in the cartoons and the Suicide Squad in the comic, they've done a lot of work to really make her own character. So I actually loved the fact that they made her something different than the Joker. Loved it. My only problem with it was she was kind of very much like too much like the Scarecrow for me. And they do name check him.
Thank you. That's what I was going to mention. That she says that was her mentor.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that pays off the next season, and I soften it on it. But that was my only issue. I just didn't like what I like the character they created. I just wanted more than like, hey, it's kind of like this is kind of like a Scarecrow thing. But I also kind of wish that they would have kept this episode till closer to the end, because I really liked seeing Harleen Quinzel, the character, because my thing is always so many writers forget she's a fucking PhD. She's a goddamn medical doctor,
Mm-hmm.
And this is all about her intelligence. I loved her because I knew where her character was going. It was only a matter of time till she's a villain. I wanted to see that like relationship between her and Montoya play out a bit. I wanted to see more of the Barbara Gordon friendship, which does come into play in this episode, because that's why she almost dies and almost gets caught, because she won't leave her friend Barbara to die, who's trying to save Batman. And they've created this wonderful character, and they've given us so many beats, and it was like, I kind of wish they would have kept her origin off for a bit more and let her exist more as a character. So that's why, like, I think it was a great episode, but those are my two things. Like, I wanted more of her, and I just wanted more of her in both aspects of the word.
Yeah, I think the fact that Dr. Crane is her mentor, and they name drop that before we see her whole thing being revealed, which is, I guess, that made me more accepting of her whole thing, because I was like, oh, okay, so this, then I can, because we don't get Scarecrow in this season.
We don't, we don't.
Maybe we will in the future. I would only imagine we would. Maybe that's how, Harley Quinn gets drawn back into this, into this universe, because, I mean, we see her leave at the end of this. But yeah, her connections to Montoya and Barbara Gordon also, you would imagine, are going to end up bringing it back. She ends up like having to stand up Renee Montoya on their dinner date because of fighting Batman, essentially.
Right, exactly, and but again, I wanted to say I love every change they made to the character, because again, this is a multiverse thing. Who cares, right? Like, as long as you can do something with it, that's what we said in the beginning, right? Just do something interesting with it, and they did something interesting. So
yeah, the changes actually led to meaningful stuff. Where again, our criticism of episode 1 was just gender swapping Penguin led to virtually nothing.
Exactly. All right, next episode is Batman is a Ghostbuster. I did not like this episode.
Yeah, I thought this was the weakest episode of the one.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Like, if I remember correctly, because I did watch these all together, so like B plots mix in my head. If I remember correctly, we get a lot of like history with Pennyworth.
Yes.
And Bruce, which I hated that they call him Pennyworth. You touched on it. I didn't like their relationship here. I did see when at the end when he calls him Alfred, I said, okay, this was with purpose. I get they were trying to build it up. Now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of still don't like it. This is still kind of this is too late in life for Bruce to only be realizing that Alfred's his boy who's got his back and always as like, I don't know, Alfred raised you, motherfucker. You woke him up at 3 a.m. creepily to go, the people who killed my parents will pay, and you're going to help me. Which I believe is a scene in this episode.
So, yeah, I wanted to talk about that scene because I'm going to tell, man, some kid comes up and tells me that shit, and in that situation, number one, I would be scared shitless of this kid, probably, and that's probably what happened to Pennyworth. For years, he was scared of Bruce Wayne because of this scene.
Yeah, sorry, sir, please don't kill me. I had nothing to do with your parents' death. But so there is a lot of like, you know, backstory with that. Some of it I think works, some of it doesn't. Again, I didn't love their whole thing, like, you know, throughout the series. And this episode goes against the tone, the awesome tone that I was liking up to the now, where it's like this grounded in reality. Because at this point, like, I'm waiting for, like, not to be crass, but a Scooby-Doo thing. Like, oh, who is this guy pretending to be a ghost robbing the rich? Oh, it's a poor person, you know, who was snubbed by the rich. But no, it wasn't. It was a fucking ghost. Batman's got to go to a shaman to fight this ghost.
And I want to say too is that the guy he goes to reminded me of oh god, why is this from the villain from Live and Let Die?
Yes, so I actually did think that.
Oh
too.
my god,
Baron Zamuda.
Yes,
Baron Mordo or Baron Zamuda or something like that.
Never, no, not Baron Mordo.
It was not Baron Mordo, you're right. I was just throwing Baron, Zemo, Zamuda, Moro.
That's who kept popping in my mind. I'm telling you, it was random shit that was popping in my mind. Apparently, Seinfeld, James Bond, you know, that's who it reminded me very much of. And yeah, like the Batman, the Bruce Wayne Pennyworth relationship throughout this season, I had mentioned previously it was jarring, but I wasn't against it because I kind of feel like I started to wonder if they were trying to make this a storyline that it would work towards the relationship we know. And we know that their relationship can become contentious at times. I mean, as any father figure son relationship will become at moments. It does happen. But this was very like Bruce treats him like he is a servant, like through a lot of it.
Yeah, no, he treats him like the fucking hell.
Yeah,
it's like
he is.
He raised you, motherfucker.
And he yells at him a bunch, but I also do think that this is, I guess, showing some character growth for Bruce to go through. Then we see some of it.
Yeah.
So as long as it got there eventually, I was kind of okay with it. Them taking a different route to it.
I get it. For me, it just feels like I can't imagine this is a relationship that's only forming in Bruce's late 20s, early 30s. Like, that would be like only bonding. Like, let's say, God forbid, your parents passed away and you were adopted at 6 and taking care of someone who did everything you asked of them. Even crazy shit like clean your wounds when you come back from fighting, from training to be a vigilante. And it's like, you only now feel any affection toward him. That's kind of sociopathic. That's why it just didn't feel like a Batman thing for me. And one thing I love is the relationship between Bruce and Alfred. So
yeah. I will say too is this one thing I did notice, why I guess also I was a bit more okay with the relationship, because I kind of feel like, I don't know if you picked up on this, but the scenes where we get the Batman voice is anytime he's not around people. He speaks to Pennyworth in the same voice when they're alone in the Batcave. And I feel like even in the car, a couple of times when he goes to change in the car, I kind of feel like it showed more of Bruce Wayne putting on the show that Batman is the real face, Bruce Wayne is the mask. And I kind of felt like that was leaned into heavily. And maybe that's why this relationship is going at the rate it is. Okay. Because he really is Batman. And the other thing is, I'm just saying, I kind of clocked it. And now, if you rewatch it, then maybe you would clock it. You'd see it too. But or maybe I'm wrong. But I really felt like that was the case quite a bit.
I know. I like that. I like that explanation because I wanted to. I don't want to dislike the shit.
You're gonna love them one way or the other. It doesn't matter.
It's true. It's true. All right. Next episode is Moving Target. You want to do this one, or you want me to do this one?
No, you can go ahead and do it. I was very fascinated by the villain and his mask. Once he puts on that mask, then he just speaks in sounds that kind of reminded me of somewhat of an homage to Batman 66, but in a darker way.
Yeah, that was very strange, and the character looked like, was it the Question? Like, I don't know. He looked like he not like literally, but he looked like an old school 40s villain or character that I've seen. I just couldn't place. Maybe it was him, and I've seen him in a comic. But yeah, so I thought he was cool. Like, so this whole thing is, someone puts a hit out on Gordon. And so we've got to protect James Gordon, who clearly the hit was put out on. And it's not James Gordon who's the hit's put out on. It's Barbara Gordon, who we didn't really get to talk about much, but she's a very cool character, lawyer, very much for the people. She spars a lot with Harvey Dent, who's the prosecuting attorney. More from him later. And the person who tries to have her killed is one of her former clients, who she got the best deal she possibly could for. And he literally puts out all this money for like kill her, and that's why we have like a cop on the take tries to kill her, like someone she's like friendly with, like hired goons and assassins. This guy with the swirl on his face, and it stops because Batman. This is the episode where Batman just breaks into a fucking prison, like.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Like, Batman really shows that he's willing to go anywhere, anytime, any place. And I feel like Barbara calls him out on that a couple of times throughout this season, where he just shows up and she's just like, "Can you please just like not eerily just show up whenever you want?" And even after she says that, she's like, "Yeah, I know it's not going to stop you, but whatever. I said it." Yeah, I really dug this villain. And I always seem to, I guess, I seem to be like stories about open contracts, kind of like John Wick, and in the John Wick films. There was a movie called Smoking Aces back at one point that was like also an open. Like, I don't know. I think they're fun stories because you got these tons of wacky assassins coming from all over the place. Just. They're all bets are off on one contract kill, and this one just happens to have Batman involved in it. So, cool episode for me.
I agree. I liked it as well. All right, next episode called Nocturne, and this is pretty much Harvey Dent's campaigning, and kids go missing because there's a child vampire.
Yeah, so this is the other supernatural episode. One of the things that I dug about this, did you clock all the kids, though?
Like who they were?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
All right, so one of the kids is Jason Todd.
Okay.
The one that they call Jason, everything like that. Pretty sure one of them's Dick Grayson, and another one is Carrie Kelly.
Okay, oh, that's fun.
And she's the one with she gets the the slingshot.
Yeah,
because that's Carrie Kelly's weapon as Robin. And shit, who am I forgetting? The other Robin. Damn.
Tim Drake.
Yes, Tim Drake. I believe he's the other kid. That are all involved.
Oh shit! I didn't clock that at all.
They're all his Robins.
Oh, that's cool. All right, that's a cool little Easter egg and nod.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch that. I got to be honest. I thought this was a weak episode myself because tonally, like the Supernatural episode, I just didn't think it was earned in the tone that they had given us outside of these weird outlying Supernatural episodes. So that kind of spoiled it for me.
Yeah, I didn't love the episode. I really got on board with the kids. Once I learned who they were, I was like, oh, this is cool. I wonder if they're going to harken back to this when it's Robin time. And are they gonna address this or not? Or was this literally just the Easter egg? And maybe this Batman never has a Robin.
Maybe, and I'd be okay with that too, to be honest with you.
Because there was also what episode was it? Where they name dropped Floyd Lawton, and he ends up getting shot in a courtroom.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, so it was, for those unaware, that's Deadshot. So I'm like,
yeah,
so
that's right. I didn't even.
No Deadshot?
I mean, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. I mean,
kind of surprised.
I thought
he would have been good.
I actually think he would have been good because he's a grounded character. But you know, you put anyone in a Deadshot outfit, call him whatever you want. You know, it's not like they can't bring him back. No one's really dead except for Uncle Ben, the Waynes.
Yes, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, the whole vampire girl thing, it's like this rare affliction, and her brother's kind of like the scientist, and they pass it off in the circus and stuff like that, kind of like, what's it called? I don't know, like oddities type thing that was going on here. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird. I didn't love this episode. This is probably the second. This and the Headless Horseman episode. Where,
the worst episodes, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But then we end with a bang because the last two is kind of like a spiritual two-parter, right? Yep. And it's the rise of Two-Face.
Yeah, because at the end of that episode, right? Isn't that the one where he gets the acid thrown in his face? And then I knew what was coming next.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's the last scene.
Yes, it was. Well, I think they were leading up to it, like. Because Harvey's whole thing is, we've seen him a lot this season, from like maybe episode 1 or 2. He's brash. He's kind of a dick. He's running for mayor. His campaign takes a hit. Rupert Thorne, right? It's Thorne, right?
Yeah.
Who is the crime boss that we see in the first episode, that is rivaling with Oswaldo Cobblepot. He does what Thorne does. Actually, I thought like Thorne is not a forgotten, but an underappreciated Batman character, and they do him real good justice here because he does that thing like, oh well, I could throw you some money, I could help you out, and then, of course it leads up to him getting Dent in his pocket, and he wants Dent to find this killer not guilty.
Yeah,
like just throw the case, and Dent is thinking about doing it, and then he decides, nah, I can't break this. Can't cross this line. And at the end of the episode, you just see a shifty guy sitting in the audience, kind of just following Dent. And I'm really happy they went this way because this is comic book accurate, but it's kind of so ridiculous. Most people change it, which I get, but they went to the fucking acid to the face in the courtroom, and I love that they did that.
Yeah, I mean, man, when was the last time we've seen that?
I've never seen it before in my entire life in a live action movie.
No, isn't that how it happens in Batman Forever?
No, what is Batman Forever? I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. No, but it's so lazily done in that, because don't we see it on like a news clipping where we see it on a news report, and then that and it's like, that would have been a cool scene. Not that movie was interested in cool scenes, but.
And also the way it was done in that movie was like the guy did it from the stand.
Yes.
And it was a news clipping, and it's like that makes no sense.
No. Not much did. Man, no. I can't believe that was Granny's PhD's 50th episode that we
it's like 100 episodes ago.
It is. It was a long time ago, but man, it was a landmark episode.
Quick sidebar. We've been doing this show so long. I see movies and I go, oh, we should probably do that on the show. And then I think about it and I go, wait, I think we did do that on the show.
Oh, we're getting up there then.
We are. All right, and then so that's this episode, and then the next episode he becomes Two-Face. I've been taking most of them. You take this one, Ed.
That's fine. Well, so the finale was actually one of the strongest episodes too, because we pick up Harvey where he's got his face bandaged up, and Bruce is his friend and tries to kind of like help him. He wants to help his friend. He takes him out to dinner, begrudgingly so he goes. And I like this episode because there was a lot of the psychology of Two-Face in this. Mm-hmm. And they're at dinner, no one's bothering him or anything like that. But in his mind, he's hearing shit it goes into the split personality thing here. So the dark version is hearing all these people talking shit about him and mocking him, and he ends up snapping and rips off the bandages. And the choice that they went with for the artwork is pretty haunting in a way. Like, they don't, like, it's not cartoonish at all.
No, his face looks like shattered, ripped glass almost. Like,
yep,
kind of like it looks like it's not like discolored. It's not green with a bulging eye. And again, I love that Two-Face in the animated series is my favorite. Yeah. But you're right. This was so haunting.
Yeah, it was really, I guess, as realistic as you can for an animated series. So yeah, they lean into that, and then this also causes a thing where this also spins off into the relationship of Bruce and Pennyworth becoming Alfred, because he calls him out and says, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Maybe you kind of helped inadvertently springboard him past this. And Bruce yells at him and says, you're wasting my time, Pennyworth. Like, really scolds him. And then as the episode goes on, he kind of realizes it, and Batman does say, if I did push him like this, and starts to realize he was right, and takes some guilt in kind of creating Two-Face in a way, right, to push him in his direction. And by the end of the episode, when he eventually stops him, then he comes back around and calls him Alfred at the very end of the episode, before we get to like the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dug the fact that a lot of this was building up to Harvey Dent being, the big bad final boss type thing for the season, for the first season. I thought that was pretty cool. They didn't go to where most normally would have, but he gets teased at the end.
No, I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, I thought so.
But I'm glad that's all it is.
So do I. And this
season.
Good.
Okay, good.
No, well, I was going to say, so the end of the episode, the Joker gets teased. Obviously, we see a bunch of victims smiling and stuff. You knew it was coming. And then we get one brief line from him. This Joker's voice is nothing like Mark Hamill. He's got like this deep, intimidating, growling voice. I am really curious to see where the hell this goes, because I have a feeling we're getting a different spin on Joker in this.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if this show, if it keeps tonally with what the show is set up, except for the 2 episodes we talked about, I'm looking forward to seeing what it is, because it's going to be a more realistic, and not necessarily darker, just more realistic, right? Like maybe something more akin to the Joker from the the taxi driver Joker. I'm forgetting his name.
Todd Phillips Joker.
Yeah. Thank you, the Todd Phillips Joker. Not necessarily like that, but just more grounded in reality, maybe more like a serial killer or something, or and I'm curious to take, because you got to have a new take. You can't, especially when we have so many Jokers. And again, this is what it comes down to, if these shows are going to be good or not. Like, can you give us something fresh that isn't reinventing the wheel? And that's hard. We've had how many Jokers in the past decade, right? So they got to keep reinventing. They got to keep giving us something. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, because I'd like to see a grounded 40s Joker.
Yeah, me too. Pretty excited for it. But yeah, I think some of the other things, by the way, we get here, John DiMaggio is Bullock in this show, and it seems like John DiMaggio finds his way into everything. And I also was fortunate to meet him at the Transformers Rise of the Beast thing, and he also took some selfies too. So that was pretty sick.
That's awesome. He also played the Joker in the cartoon version of
Red Hood.
Red Hood.
Yeah, he did, which he does a great job as that. What's it I want to mention here? Lucius Fox, who we didn't really mention, is in this.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kind of Bruce's lawyer.
Yes.
In this show,
which I'm fine with.
Yeah,
I think there are iterations where that's their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Diedrich Bader is Harvey Dent Two-Face in this, which I'm watching this and I was refusing to look it up, and I'm like, this fucking voice sounds really familiar. Who the hell is it? And eventually, discovered who it was that was on there.
He did a good job.
And I was trying to figure out where the hell I knew McKenna Grace from. So she is also in this as well. Who, if you've seen the new Ghostbusters movie, she's Spangler's daughter.
Okay.
That's in this. So she is I lost my Natalia Knight. She plays in this Batman Cape Crusader. What else is here?
Okay.
I think that was kind of it. Jamie Chung is Harley Quinn.
Okay.
And it's unlisted. It says Haley Joel Osment. I don't know who he was.
Oh, I don't know.
No, that's kind of.
I didn't clock him.
No, we didn't.
So, all right. Before we move off from this, I purposefully did not reveal the scene of the show, of the series, that got me most excited. Because I'll tell you what episode it's in. It's in your favorite episode.
Okay, so it's in the Harley Quinn.
For 100 points, what is the scene that you think got me most excited for a moment, fanboy-wise?
Fuck, I'm not. It's not coming to me.
All right. Once I tell you, you're gonna kick yourself.
Yeah, probably.
It'll be obvious. So, in the very beginning of the episode, before we know what's going on, the first rich guy who she brainwashes is dressed up as King Tut, and he attacks someone.
Oh shit! Yes.
And I fucking thought for a moment, because I wasn't even looking at the titles of these, I was just watching them in order.
King Tut
I was like, wait a minute.
Villain.
Am I going to get like a serious 1940s King Tut? I got so excited.
Dude, I am kicking myself because I thought the same fucking thing. I thought the same thing. I was like, holy shit, are they really going to do this?
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. I love when, because that's pretty much what the animated series did with Mr. Freeze, right? They took a bullshit joke of villain from the 60s comic and gave them depth. And I thought that's what we were going to get here with one of the most ridiculous villains ever.
He is one of the most ridiculous villains ever. He is the second King Tut that I think of when I think of King Tut, though.
Who's the first?
The first is SNL. Wow.
King Tut, Steve Martin?
Yeah, Steve Martin. Thank you. I don't know why
I thought that's where you're going.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going, but apparently you drew a brain fart on Steve Martin. Yeah, that's always the first one. That's I'm always thinking watching old SNL when it was on VHS.
That's good stuff.
Because like Steve's mother bought a bunch of them, and we would watch them as kids, and I was like, "This is hilarious. This is insane."
Did I ever tell you about the SNL sketch that it might be a Mandela effect, but it can't be. It has to have existed. It was when we were kids. We were in junior high school. SNL used to be an hour and a half for a brief time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to stay up because my mother didn't give a shit what I did as long as I cleaned the house and made dinner.
Yeah.
So I would stay up and I'd watch it. And I'll never forget there was an episode of this sketch comedy with I think the sketch that I think Sandler did called Stalk Talk.
Okay.
Where he had different people on. He was obsessed with his ex-girlfriend. And the joke was always like, "When that bitch left me," But the guest was Chris Walken, and he comes on, he does this Chris Walken thing, and I think it's like Jan Hooks maybe, who's like playing a guest who's a girl, who's like insulting him, and he looks at her and he goes, "You think about me when you masturbate." Now looking back, clearly he must have ad-libbed that. And it was live.
Did she break? Did she break?
No, she did not break. She did not break. Jan Hooks is a fucking professional. But and I remember saying that to someone in 8th grade because they were fucking with me. So it must have existed. But you can't find it anywhere. I own the Chris Walken DVD. I've Googled it. I've looked everywhere I could possibly. So if anyone's listening and you have proof that this exists, please share it with me.
I'm gonna have to try to look for this thing too. I have to find this now. I was excited that on Sports Talk Radio the other day that Sprockets was referenced. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I thought I was dying laughing. It was so random, but I was just like, I used to fucking love that shit.
Oh, that was great.
Anytime I see anybody with a black turtleneck, that's what I think of immediately.
Would you like to pet my monkey?
Touch my monkey. Touch my Oh. All right. Well, we both recommend Batman Cape Crusader for those who are into Batman like we are. Definitely check it out, especially if you're a fan of the animated series, as we are. Definitely worth a shot. Just go in knowing that they're going to take some liberties with some of your traditional characters, and they may land with you, but they may not. I mean, who knows? But
they didn't all land with us, but overall, it's the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice to get a proper Batman TV show for the first time in a long time.
It is, but it would be nice to get a fucking live action. Whoever can do Farachi, take care of that. You can use your connections, your fast connections, and finally get me a live action television show with Batman.
All right.
Our 200th episode is coming up.
You know what the problem is? Problem is box office is just too big, man. It's too big for Batman.
I know.
All right. So, speaking of big box offices these days, Deadpool Wolverine still crushing it, bringing in, what was it, $98 million in its second weekend. And it is clearly going to get to $1 billion in really fast. So they're crushing it. But we were doing our countdown and, did not get a chance to. There's just a lot of X-Men movies. And we had a lot of stuff to watch. So we're going to finish it up post Deadpool and Wolverine. That takes us back to 2016's Deadpool. And
a simpler time.
Yeah. So I'm sure I've told it. I have a unique relationship with this film. And actually Tim does too. And my wife. The three of us have a unique relationship with this because this movie released on Valentine's Day, I believe it was. Or it was around Valentine's Day that year. And it was it President's Day? Or it was sometime in January that it happened. So I remember there was some sort of a holiday. And it was a thing I saw on Twitter, because that's what it was at the time. And it was like, hey, there's a Q&A going on in Chelsea in a movie theater over there. And it's with Tim Miller and some of the producers and stuff. Like, you want to come down, maybe we'll show a clip or two. And that was it. And I saw this. And I was like, I immediately RSVP'd to it. And because this is how we would get those screenings that you've talked about a bunch of times. And I did. And it got closer, and I told Angie, I'm like, you know something? I have a weird feeling. This is going to be much bigger than what they're letting go. I don't know why they're choosing to go this route, but I have a funny feeling. So in the freezing cold, we drive to Manhattan, and I get online, and I was like the third person online, maybe even the second, actually. There was hardly anyone online for this. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I was talking to some of the people there, which I'm going to be honest, I usually try not to talk to people that are online with me.
That's fair.
I've ran into some weird shit at times, and I was just amazed that the line wasn't going too much longer. And this was the shortest line I've ever had for one of these screenings. Like as it got closer, it wasn't getting any more. And it was freezing this day. We went in, not even a big theater really, and there was like they were even telling people to, if you know anybody who's interested, come call them and stuff like that. Like they needed to fill the theater for this. And I was like, wow, this is so strange. And I called Tim and I'm like, Tim, if you're still on the L train, you should fucking head right back to Manhattan. Because I'm going to have a weird feeling something's going down here. And he had enough time to get back from Queens to Manhattan, to Chelsea to see this. He got there, and lo and behold, there was a Q&A. They're talking to Tim Miller, the director, and Ryan Reynolds happens to come strolling down, very unassumingly. And the place, erupts with I don't know, there was less than 50 people in this thing. And they get into talking, and he's just casually like, so you guys just want to see the movie? And the player goes, oh shit! And I was Angie. I was like, I fucking knew it. And he's like, let's just go. Let's stop talking about this and let's just watch this movie. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. And we got to see Deadpool in January.
That's awesome.
And it was so cool. And then there was a Q&A after, and my wife Angie got picked as one of the people, and she chooses to ask him if he actually legitimately did the tighty whitey scene and ripped the underwear through it in the last act. And he, Ryan Reynolds ate it up, of course, and went with it. So, yeah, she got to speak to Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in two of these screenings that we got to see for their previous movies in this run.
Crazy.
And it was wild.
That's wild. That's awesome.
It is wild, right? I was there. I mean, I got to I didn't get a picture with Ryan Reynolds, but I did get a selfie with Hugh Jackman, which was cool.
Right.
So, yeah, this movie, holds a special place for me there, too. And it was so crazy because we were, the three of us, going back to my car, going back to, Ridgewood and Glendale, I was just like, no, actually, I lived in Forest Hills at this time. We were all couldn't stop talking about the movie, but they're like, we can't tell anyone else, though. Like, it's just our secret that we get to talk about Deadpool. And I remember we went to see it eventually, and I was like zipped. We
did.
Jason, I don't spoil anything.
No. You do not. You're the
close.
best at that. You spoil nothing.
No reaction.
I've seen movies for the first time with you, and it's your like third time, and you let nothing. You don't even tell me if there's a fucking end credit scene until we get there.
No, none of it. Like that's it. I don't react before something's gonna happen. Like I try to go with it as if this is the first time I've seen it, even though my brain, I'm like, yes, this is coming. All right, let's go. This movie really fucking holds up, man. It really is he was born to play this role, and all the shit he had to go through to get this made. The stories are out there. It's awesome. It's also interesting now looking back on it after we've seen Deadpool and Wolverine. Like the Hugh Jackman jokes. Like in the beginning, he jokes about, well, how did Deadpool get his own movie? Well, I'll just tell you, it rhymes with Wolverine. And he has some ball. What did he say? Something about fondling his balls or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the Sexiest Man Alive cover makes its appearance twice in the movie. He's wearing it at the end, stapled to his face. So the idea that it comes basically full circle currently is just so fucking cool. It really is man.
This is why I think, and I have said this to you before, I don't know if I've said it on the show, but this is my personal theory, and I'm not kidding, I really believe this, that there was a multiverse where Deadpool existed, and it was Ryan Reynolds, and he escaped that multiverse before it was destroyed, and he came here, and he got cosmetic surgery, or he didn't have the fucked up face or whatever, and he's hot Ryan Reynolds. And so he made it his mission to make sure that everyone knew how awesome Deadpool was, because he really is Deadpool. That's my theory.
And Wesley Snipes apparently somewhat agrees with you on this because he's mentioned it in interviews now. Now that they're all talking about everything that happened to Deadpool and Wolverine.
And if Wesley Snipes isn't the best person to give my conspiracy a thumbs up, I don't know who is. Think about this. Has Ryan Reynolds aged? I don't think so. Because of the healing factor. He'll live forever. He'll outlive our grandkids.
Hey, he makes jokes about Paul Rudd in Deadpool and Wolverine, but he's right there with him.
He is right there with him. And maybe that's why him and Hugh Jackman are such friends, because Hugh kind of reminds him of his old friend Logan from back in his home universe.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, there's also a joke early in this movie where it's a real thing. It's said funnily, like as a joke, is that this is a love story, and it's not a joke actually. Like this movie really plays like a love story because when Wade gets like diagnosed with cancer and everything like that, and his reaction and everything after he just found love, and they have the whole calendar girl joke where they're having sex throughout all the holidays and everything like that to celebrate. It hits hard when he's really distraught by this, and it's his motivation to take to go into this thing where he meets Ajax to basically unlock the X gene. His motivation's legit, and he's doing it for his girlfriend, and you can see that here. And it really plays pretty damn well. And I will say for a while, watching this movie, until I think really like today, to tell you the truth, I was always kind of like on the fence about how she'll never have me because I'm ugly and everything like that. But there's a scene where he walks around and he sees the reactions of people, and that's where it gets into his head psychologically. And yeah, it's not her that he's worried about, because obviously she would have, and she does eventually, and she's way more mad at him for not coming to him
for
sooner.
Going away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I that's actually one of the things I love about this movie is that it is a love story, and what it has going for it is underneath all of this crazy Deadpool storyline and all of these fun gags, there's emotion here. Like, it's never a joke. Like he jokes about everything, but not his feelings for her.
Yeah.
Like there are things that are too sacred, and the fact that he leaves, and it's selfish. It's one of those like selfish, masculine, manly man things to do. Like, cannot let woman see me weak. But people do that, and fucking Wade Wilson would absolutely do that. So it makes sense. But the fact that he leaves to go for this treatment and everything, and like everything that motivates him is love. Again, the pathos is so strong, and I think that's why this is my favorite of the three. But I'll probably say the same thing next week, and then I'll have to watch the third one again. But this one, and it's their relationship that really anchors it for me.
Yeah, it is. It's this movie definitely has. I think it does have the most heart out of the three, which I will say Deadpool and Wolverine has more heart than I think some people are giving it credit for when you really break it down. But this one, it really is driven by that. And I think if Wade was diagnosed with cancer and was not with Vanessa, then I think he probably would have kind of just accepted it and was done, to be honest with you.
I think so too.
There's a lot of the jokes in this too. Like, there's a lot of them, mostly ripping. There's the Green Lantern joke, and it's like, hey, don't make the super suit green and animated. And you could almost feel the vitriol from Ryan Reynolds for Green Lantern, and that still hasn't like slowed down. But him taking the shot here, I thought was pretty funny. And of course, he has the action figure from X-Men Origins Wolverine of that Deadpool.
That was funny.
That was definitely funny. And I think this movie too, and I know TJ Miller did
some dumb shit and got himself into, some basically career suicide, and tries to shit talk Ryan Reynolds, these days, because he gets dropped from his franchise because, he fucked up. He did some stupid shit. So, but the Weasel Wade Wilson relationship, it holds up. It was funny. It did kind of just make me like, why did you have to go and do some dumb shit?
What did he do?
I think he said some really crazy shit or something like that, or whatever it is. I would have to look into it more, but I know it's been referenced recently because it's noticeable he's missing from Deadpool and Wolverine. Not that I think he would have had a huge part in it, because for the most part, the Deadpool cast, from the first two, is not in Deadpool and Wolverine very much. Yeah, they're sidelined a lot because, it's Deadpool and Wolverine on their, buddy cop trains, planes, automobiles adventure that they're on.
Right.
But it just made me like, damn, they were good together. It was funny, man.
I definitely liked their relationship. I liked his performance in it. Like when Ajax comes with I don't remember the woman's name, but and they
Gina Carano. Gina Carano.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That was Gina Carano? Oh shit.
Yeah, who
were
was
they
Angel Dust
together? No, but so then there's that thing where she grabs him and pulls him up, and like every criminal in the place pulls out a gun, and he's like unplussed, like it's not the place to do that. I liked him in this.
His line after that, though, again, because of what we're after now, again, a different lens after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, when he tells them like, oh yeah, go enjoy your midnight screening of Blade 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Again, full circle here. I'm like, it is different. It is honestly different knowing what we know now of it. How you would take certain things in here. Also seeing him meet Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead for the first time, and Dopinder when he meets him. Well, like just seeing him meet all these characters now that are his family in Deadpool and Wolverine, I thought was interesting.
And that opening sequence, we got to talk about that opening sequence, because that opening sequence is brilliant. Like it starts off and everything is slow, and you don't know what you're looking at, and they're playing Angel of the Morning, and like I remember seeing it for the first time. Like that's a cigarette lighter for a car, and what's going on here? And then you go back, and then when you see it, like, and they let it run, I was like, oh shit, that like. That was such a great opening scene, and then the fact that the credits were these fake credits, like written by some overpaid douchebag.
The writers, the real heroes of the movie, which you talked about. Ryan Reynolds mentioned recently that he took out of his own pocket to have Reese and Wernick on set during Deadpool, which. It's true. I mean, he really was being sincere about that.
Yeah, no, he puts his money where his mouth is.
Absolutely.
But before we got into the other characters, I just wanted to talk about that opening because it is one of my favorite parts about this movie. Just this fucking crazy brawl in a car, and you're just in the middle, and it's slow-mo, and this song that does not fit what's going on is playing, and it's like, what am I looking at? Like, brilliant.
And I remember I clocked this, and going back to the first time that I saw this movie, I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're in for. And I remember like the crowd reaction was hilarious, like absolute hilarity when it was going through. And they do more jokes with it in the end credits as well. But they named the people obviously more, who's in it. And this is actually in those opening credits is where God's Perfect Idiot comes from, because Logan calls him that in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you really are God's perfect idiot. Like, there's so many callbacks in Deadpool and Wolverine to this movie. Even the whole with setting the world on fire now, the whole opening to Deadpool Wolverine, the bye bye bye, it is mirroring what the opening credits that we get here, but obviously they're naming the people instead. But it's this wild, crazy action scene where shit is labeled on stuff that's flying around. So I thought that was also pretty cool. But the jokes on a studio about only affording 2 X-Men, and when Colossus is dragging him and he's like, I need to take you to see the professor. And it's one of my favorite Deadpool jokes ever. It was like, wait, is it Stewart or McAvoy? Like, which one? They're like, these timelines are so complicated.
Which, considering we've just been having those conversations, he ain't wrong.
No, he's not wrong. He is dead on with a lot of this shit in here. What else was there here? This might be my favorite Stan Lee cameo ever. Him as a announcer in a strip club.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Priceless.
That's so funny.
Priceless. And who was it that played? Ed Skrein, who plays Ajax in this, also does a phenomenal job in this and their whole battle that goes on.
He's great.
He really is. Really is.
And even in the scenes where he's experimenting on Deadpool and trying to activate his mutant gene, and just how he responds, because he's the straight man, right? And Wade Wilson's being crazy, and he's really, really creepy. When he puts him into that living death scenario at the end of his treatment that eventually pulls the X gene out, oh my god, the glee he gonna take, and not but oh, this is going to hurt. He gives quite a performance, which I think is overshadowed by a lot of other good performances in this.
Yeah, it's basically everyone. Everyone seems to be on their A game in this. And I know Gina Carano's just kind of the muscle in this movie, and she doesn't get that much to do. But I also think at that point in her career, they were, you were playing to her strengths.
Yeah.
In this. So I think that was probably just her physicality was what she was really there for, and does a good job with that. And I was actually looking to see this version of Colossus that we get was such a welcome that we got here for him.
Yeah.
He was the most comics accurate Colossus we got by far.
He was, and he's just fun.
Yes.
Just the fact that oh, don't curse, the fact that he's such a wet blanket and is such a great foil to Wade being such a lunatic. And I love the scene where Wade punches him, breaks his hand, punches him again, tries to kick him with the balls. Yes. Colossus is just why do you do this, little man?
And Deadpool says something wow, I feel sorry for your wife. What the
oh my god, yes. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. This Colossus is probably my favorite Colossus that we've ever gotten.
Yeah, for sure.
Live action.
And across the 3 movies, even the new one, he's barely in it, but he just, I don't know, he's so beloved with this. Yeah. What else was some of the highlights on him? His relationship with Dopinder is also one of the funniest things in this thing. He gives him this advice.
Dopinder's a fucking lunatic.
Well, again, he's following Wade's advice. I mean, that makes him a lunatic automatically. But
yes,
the fact that Wade meets this random cab driver and just climbs his way into the front, because we first meet him, he's fucking with the things in the back of the taxi and stuff, and then climbs towards the front because he's bored and starts talking to him, and he gives him all this relationship advice because he has this romantic rival, and we find that he's locked in a trunk later.
By the end, yeah, and possibly dead by the end of this movie, right?
Oh, absolutely, because when Wade goes in and forgets the friggin' ammo bag, and then he calls him, he gets into an accident and you hear him scream at the end.
And I love when he lets him off. He's like, okay, that'll be like 25, 50. And he's like, sorry, man, I don't carry cash when I get the suit. Chris Pie 5?
And I'm going to tell you, this movie has stuck with me because when me or Angie are sick and we're trying not to get the other one sick, you know, the kiss hello and everything is always literally quoted as Chris Pie 5 now. Since this movie.
I like that. I love that, actually. I love
that. And the post-credit scene, the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and legitimately mentioning that Cable would be in the sequel. But when he's telling the audience not to leave their shit behind, I don't leave my shit behind since then.
Oh,
it literally sticks with me. I'm not kidding. You notice
That's awesome.
I always take my cup and my popcorn and my napkins. I try to clean up the best I can because of Deadpool.
Good on Deadpool.
Yes.
Good on Deadpool. He's right. Those people make shit. Come on, don't leave a mess for him.
Yeah, it's annoying. I mean, come on now. Plus, I mean, they're on the clock. They have to like do this really fast before the next screening starts.
Right, exactly. Be courteous. Be kind.
Yeah.
Take your shit with you.
And him, by the way, I even forgot his first interaction with Blind Al was when he was washing his white suit and couldn't get the bloodstains out, and she gives him advice, and that's what makes him
smells the blood.
Yeah, and she makes him like go ahead and rethink that whole thing, and then they end up becoming roommates later, and the cocaine jokes start and everything.
I love Blind Al. I think she is one of the funniest parts of these movies. I wish she was in the third one more. I just and I didn't realize until recently that she's the woman who takes over the vault in the Fallout show.
Yes, I recognized her immediately when we saw that. I was like, holy shit, fucking Blind Al.
It's someone like it was like I recognized, but I couldn't place her. And then we saw Deadpool and Wolverine. But this performance is hysterical. The fact that she is. Their relationship is so weird and disgusting. And the fact that she is such a coke fiend, I just find so funny. Because I think it's really funny when older people do things they shouldn't. and that's probably ageist of me, but I was definitely the guy in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation chucking it up at old Uncle Murray's toupees on fire or rapping Granny. You give me a rapping Granny, forget it. I can't hold it in, you know?
That's great. Yeah, and another thing too, tying back to Deadpool and Wolverine, is the Shield helicarrier at the end of this movie, where the final battle takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely is in the void.
Oh, yeah,
it absolutely is. That is the same one. There's no question about it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it really does hold up, and
it's a great movie. And you didn't even bring up Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which I think is also an excellent addition to this movie because she's a teenager, clearly with explosive power, and she's like the other X-Men that they could afford, right? As Wade would say. Mm-hmm. And so she's with Colossus. But I love the fact that her and Wade are always sniping at each other to show you that Wade is a fucking teenager, because he's always sniping with this teenager.
Oh yeah, and yeah, some of their banter is some of the strongest too, because he calls her.
It's
the whole thing with like, what do you?
Nothing compares to you, Sinead O'Connor, 1990.
Yeah. Oh, Ripley, Alien 3, and she's like, "Damn, you're old."
And that's what makes it funny is he keeps coming up with these burn insults for someone if you were older. And she's so young, she's just like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I don't care what you think,
And even when he goes to her for like backup with Angel Dust, and she's tweeting, she's on her fucking social media and stuff like that. He's like, oh no, go ahead, finish it. Do what you gotta do. And then she fucking kicks ass immediately when she is done with the tweet. So he's like, hashtag it.
Well, that's a great part about that character too. Is she like insane amount of power, right? Like she is what helps them beat everyone at the end, right? It's like like they all do their part, but like she blows shit up. I don't know. The action kind of all runs the same in my head. But the emotional beats. I mean, I really liked her character.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. Anything else further on Deadpool before we wrap this thing up? I mean, it is interesting seeing looking back on it, and you know,
This in my opinion is one of the very few masterpieces that came out of like the MCU. Like they had a lot of great movies, but a masterpiece is different. I think a masterpiece is timeless and did something new when it was first put out, and so it kind of changed the momentum of things, and works from start to finish. And I think this movie is. There's nothing in this movie I could point to that says, no, I don't think this works. There's nothing, despite the fact that it's Deadpool. And Deadpool can be a very offensive character. There's nothing I'm looking at this going, ooh, that didn't age well. And granted, it's only, 2016, but still, we're almost 10 years out. Everything still works about this, and it did change things. It made the industry more amenable to maybe trying R-rated pictures. It was the first movie to really go deep into the I'm breaking the fourth wall, and I think it really is one of those movies that did redefine, and the fact that it comes from Fox is kind of amazing, because Fox was hot garbage for a while, for most of their run with this. But this is a genre defining movie, I feel, and a genre changing movie. I think you do see ripples of change after this movie in the superhero genre. And so for those reasons, I think this is an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, this is definitely, and once we wrap up the Fox X-Men era, this is definitely one of the tops for me, if not the top. I mean, this, Logan,
X-Men 2,
X2, X-Men United. I mean, this is definitely one of the best that they ever made.
Yeah.
And I do remember, though, and ironically, again, ties back in, when this movie came out, people were like, oh, look, the first R-rated superhero movie. That's when I started the hashtag Justice for Blade. Because Blade was doing R-rated superhero movies decades earlier. And now it's coming to the forefront. Because even Ryan Reynolds himself tweeted out earlier today, he is actually advocating for Wesley Snipes' Blade to get a Logan-type send-off movie.
I would love that. Holy shit, I would love that.
Yes, he's actually trying to taking it to social media for the MCU to give him a Logan-type farewell.
Oh, that would be awesome. And the fact that if Ryan Reynolds did that, it would forever mend their animosity, and I could love them both equally.
Yeah, the fact that he's doing that again for him is pretty cool, and I would be all for that. He's also highly championing, now that he can talk about it, Channing Tatum being the Gambit in the MCU.
Okay, I could see that. He did a good job in the Wolverine movie.
Because
the one we just watched.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, and he
Yeah.
Also, I'm just trying to he's been telling the story now that him and Channing Tatum have had a relationship for a while, even when this was over at Fox, because he's like that at a Comic-Con when his movie was announced that there would be a Gambit. He was going through a similar process that Ryan Reynolds has gone through right now, of trying to get them to make that Gambit solo movie. He wanted to make it super comics accurate, like he's got a real love for the character, kind of similar to his own. And that audiences are eating up Gambit, in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's like, hey, then maybe you guys found your Gambit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that. I thought he was great in the Deadpool Wolverine movie, and I love the comics accurateness of it. I mean, I also love Gambit.
And another thing, I guess, since we're swaying to Deadpool and Wolverine before we wrap up, is there's another theory that's been thrown out there. Well, two theories I actually wanted to throw at you. One of them was, what if Henry Cavill is the MCU Logan?
Oh my god.
How crazy would that be?
I mean, that would be nuts. That would be nuts.
Because that was one of the... Go ahead.
fanboys would like cream their pants if that happened, like all at once as soon as that was released.
Because he looked pretty fucking good, I will say, as Wolverine.
He did. He did.
And in an interview earlier today that was released on Collider, he mentioned, like him, Sean Levy, the director, mentioned that, hey, that this thing came together in about 15 minutes. That Ryan Reynolds just threw out Henry Cavill's name as someone, if he could had to fan cast someone else besides Hugh Jackman. And literally the text went to Henry Cavill, and he immediately accepted it, was on board.
Of course he did, because if there's anything I've learned about Henry Cavill after doing all of these shows and doing research about him, is he is the biggest fanboy there is of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. He's all on board, man, and that was so cool. And I guess the other thing was, so back to the Marvels, like at the end when Monica Rambeau is thrown into the another universe where we see Binary and Beast, Kelsey Grammer's Beast, they basically linked it up and said that is the Earth that Deadpool is in right now with the current version of Wolverine that we have in that universe.
Oh, so that's the Fox universe,
Yep.
the one that he had saved.
Yep.
Okay. So I can see that because Beast was Beast in that. I mean,
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer was Beast in that.
Absolutely. So it just makes me think that, yeah, maybe Secret Wars, that's where they're going to be pulling from, that universe, and getting some of their team members from there.
I'd be okay with that. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I did think of a little inconsistency with the whole Wolverine Deadpool anchor being that I want to run past you. Okay, so all of the Fox movies are in the same universe?
Yes. Supposedly.
Okay, so then what makes this Deadpool more Deadpool than the other Deadpool from Wolverine's origin, which was also in the Fox universe?
Well, I think what they said in Deadpool Wolverine is they basically admitted that there was a hand wave there.
Okay.
And they're actually adopting the inconsistency and just saying this universe is insanely inconsistent. We're not even going to try to sort this shit out. Which
Fair
I'm
enough.
like, if you're going to own it, then roll with it.
That works for me. Because there really is no getting around that, and that is the only out you have. So, and they pulled it. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and even the whole love letter that we get at the end during the credits of Deadpool and Wolverine, there is like, yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds had tweeted out that he was like, thanking everyone for that time and stuff, and that was an era. And he was like, even though it was wacky and inconsistent and weird at times, but we had a blast, doing what we could do, under the circumstances we could do it under. So, yeah, they're not shitting on it. They're not, they're adopting it and saying, "Fuck it." We're not going to hide. We're just saying it is what it is. It was what it was.
I gotta respect that. I'm all in. I mean, I was all in anyway. I just was curious your thoughts on it, but
no, I agree. I was wondering if there was going to be some sort of clarity with that, but they're like, no, fuck it. It's all just one.
Because I've been thinking a lot about the Marvel universes or the MCU's multiverse like storyline, and I'm like, there's a lot of inconsistencies. I guess there always has to be with multiversal stuff, but
multiversal stuff definitely gets tricky at times.
Yeah, and like the fact that Loki season 1 established there was only the Prime universe until after Loki season 1, and now we're visiting all these universes that somehow aren't affected by that, but are, and I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying it detracts anything. It's just something I'm thinking about. Like this multiverse storytelling is not tidy.
Well, I do think because I did see some of this stuff on X also where people were tying together all the stuff, right? So No, I do think that the sacred timeline in the MCU is the sacred timeline, right? It is there, but I do think that within, and they've said the Fox universe is one of these timelines that did not get pruned, right? And that's what this story takes place from. But I think the idea was from Loki season 1, and once we got involved with Kang was just basically trying to prune all these other universes and only make one. Because remember, his idea was there was a Kang in all these universes, and he was trying to stop them all from coming, teaming up essentially.
No, right, but logically speaking, if I am Kang and I've been pruning all these other universes, and then I suddenly stop because I'm killed, then all of the universes that crop up theoretically should only happen after all of the, like, from the time that I stop pruning, right? Like, you're not going to have ones that I've already pruned recrop out. You're not going to have them retroactively come out. Like, you're not going to have a what if Stevie Wonder was what if Rick James was the Hulk happen in the 70s if I've been pruning since 2024. Like, offshoots of the timeline should only happen after the pruning stopped, I guess is my thing. And clearly this stuff happened before. And I'm not saying it detracts anything. I'm just saying that it gets very messy when it comes to doing multiple large stories within a multiverse, because I don't think there is a way to make it all make sense.
Yeah, and I guess the simple way in the mind to do it is, but remember, because in reality, Fox was running with their own shit, as well as New Line Cinema when they had Blade, and Fox also had Elektra, and Gambit literally, they make the jokes in it that he didn't come from another universe, and that's it. They're all operating under their own shit. So now, now it's all being considered one large thing in what the MCU is calling a multiverse. So technically, all of this existed at some point.
But why wasn't it pruned?
I mean, who knows if they got around to pruning that? You know what I'm saying? Because there's an infinite. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like in season 1 Loki, it is very clear there is one and only one universe because we prune all of them.
Well, I think they were trying to make it one universe.
Oh, okay. But you think so you think these were lines that just weren't pruned yet?
Yes, that's my understanding of it.
Okay.
Now I'm kind of interested to go back and look at season 1 to make sure that I got the proper understanding of this. But I just think that yes, his goal was to try to prune all these universes, but not. He just happened to not get to the Fox X-Men universe or Blade's universe. Well, actually, these characters were pruned by the TVA because that's how they end up in the void.
Right. So I mean, some of them are, but what I'm saying is like the ones that weren't, like Deadpool should have been pruned already before this. You know what I'm saying?
You would assume, yeah.
And it's because if they pruned all of the other universes, Deadpool happened before Kang, you'd assume he would have been pruned. And then they even do reference the fact that we are at a point in the TVA in this movie where it is post-Kang, and they're not doing that anymore, and this guy's a rogue. So, I know, it gets muddy, but maybe I should rewatch myself the season 1. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what they said about it.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, as well. I'm kind of curious now to look back on it. So, all right. So I think that does it for us this week. Thank you, as always, for checking us out. If you check us out on the Facebook live stream, be sure to check us out at Granny's Peach Tea's Facebook group. That's where we drop trailers and other stories and stuff, and just random stuff that anyone could go ahead and post and bring along. So have some fun there. Also, Pop Culture Pros and popculturepros.com, because that's who we are presented by. And on YouTube, subscribe to Pop Culture Pros or wherever you found your audio-only podcast. Jason and I will be back next week. We'll be talking about Borderlands, the new video game movie that is dropping in theaters this upcoming weekend. So we'll be back with that. We'll also be talking about the latest episode of Kite Man, Hell Yeah. And
Hell yeah.
Maybe other stuff. Maybe more explosions. Who knows?
Explosions.
See you next week. Peace.
Later.